Hi everyone, David here from Mortgage Choice. Can't believe we're already in December. Well, you would have seen that the RBA left the cash rate on hold at 4.35%, so that's a nice break over the Christmas period and into January where there is no meeting. So we've got all the way through to February knowing that there's no rate rise coming. Maybe in February, but we'll have to wait and see. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about, as I normally do, about the announcement and the fixed rate cliff, or as you'll see soon, more of a mountain descent, and what's opportunistic for first home buyers, upgraders, and investors. So let's kick it off. Now, 4.35% is the cash rate that's remained on hold, and they have stated again that inflation, whilst it is reducing, we're still very, very far away from hitting that target range of 2 to 3%. And at this point, they're forecasting that we won't be there until 2025, potentially even the end of 2025, which means on this trajectory, we're going to have a very long plateau at current interest rates. Perhaps a little bit of a dip along the way, but we've still got another year, maybe 2 years of interest rates like this. And that's going to be quite difficult for a lot of families. Now, in terms of the fixed rates and when they're expiring, we've hit the cliff, we've hit the peak, and we're now still kind of plateauing for a little bit over the next 6 to 12 months in terms of more fixed rates that are expiring. So there are still plenty out there, but we've seen the peak of them coming off. On the right-hand side, you'll see a chart here, and this is relating to the additional repayments made to a home loan via redraw or an offset. And as you can see, it takes a similar decline as fixed rates. As people come off of fixed rates, they have less cash to contribute to their home loan because they've got to cover their mortgage. As the cost of living increases, they've got less spare cash to contribute to those additional costs. And so extra payments have reduced as well. We're going to see this again continue a similar trend in that the more fixed rates expire, the less additional cash households will have to contribute to their mortgage. And what that does obviously is help reduce the rate of inflation. Not in all aspects, but it does. First home buyers, what we're seeing right now is fantastic for first home buyers because a lot of properties are selling under the high end of the quoted range. And so an example of that is a listing between 5 and 550. We're seeing them sell for 530, 540. So why that's such a shift is that for quite a long time, properties would sell above the quoted range. 550 would actually be the baseline of what the vendor wanted. And now we're seeing properties left, right, and center selling underneath. I'm seeing, I'd say a good 85, 90% of my first home buyer clients obtaining the property under that high end, which is great. Not great for the vendors, but we'll get into that in a minute. Great for first home buyers. I want to add the point of pre-approvals here, as I always do. They hold your affordability for about 90 days, typically for 90 days. And what that means is if interest rates increase and your affordability decreases, your pre-approval isn't impacted. Now, excuse me. Now, considering that we've got rates on hold through December, there's no announcement in January, which means rates will remain on hold again. Now isn't typically the best time to get a pre-approval. It's not really necessary because you've got a good 60 days where you're probably okay. Bank policies can still change at any point in time. And so we still recommend you obtain it, but there's a good chance that you will have to renew it in, say, February, and there hasn't been any change. So the other thing to consider with a pre-approval right now is the amount of stock in the market. A lot of people prepare their property for sale at this point, but they don't list until January. So there might not actually be as many opportunities to purchase until next year. It's still worth a review of your situation and affordability, and in some cases still worth getting the pre-approval, but now it's not as important as it normally is. Upgraders. We were seeing quite a lot of subject to sale contracts. When people were looking to purchase a property, they would add a condition that it is subject to sale. We're not seeing that fly through as often now. People that are selling need to sell, and they don't have time to wait for your sale to then happen. So they're not accepting those clauses as much as they used to. Still in some cases, but not as much as they used to. So that's unfortunate, but it also makes sense. Bridging is still quite common. And bridging, in case you weren't aware, is essentially when you buy a new house and you haven't sold yet. So you've got two mortgages, one on your current house, one on the new house. It's a lot of debt. And the bank says, we know you can't afford it. We'll give it to you for this short period of time, this bridging period. And when you sell, you can pay us all the money back that you can't actually afford. Based on our calculators, you can't afford to keep. And what's left is the loan that you could normally keep, or the loan that you actually need for the purchase. So that's still very common. People are not selling until they've got somewhere to move to, so they buy first, sell later, and that requires bridging. Investors, there's been some good movement in terms of investment lending. One is that interest rates between owner-occupier and investor loans typically have about a 25 basis point difference. We're seeing that shrink. There's still some lenders around that mark, but a lot around that 15 basis point mark. So that's even better. There's also some instances where they will let you apply a owner-occupied rate to your investment loan if it's secured against your home. There's a few conditions around that, but that's another great way to reduce your rate, increase your affordability, and your borrowing power when you're looking to buy an investment. Now, the other point, and this is the first point on the slide, the other point is that they're accepting more of your rental income in their calculators. Now, typically they would accept 80%. So if you've got rental income of $1,000 a month, when they're calculating your affordability, they'll only use $800. They'll shade it by 20%. Now they're only shading it by about 10%, which means they'll take $900 out of the $1,000, and that's great. They're also reducing costs associated with investment properties in the sense that they'll account for them under a regular expenses threshold. Not every lender, this is just for a particular few, but still seeing that segment of lending is growing is fantastic because there are more opportunities for people to enter the investment market. I'm not going to go into more about investment lending. We could talk for quite a while around that, with WA and Queensland going how they are. Right now, home loan rates are sitting at about 5.99%, investment 6.14%. Now, this is with a bit of a caveat that it's on the lower end. Typically, if you've got a home loan rate 6.1 to 6.3, that's still good. Investment 6.2 to 6.5, that's still good. So these are on the low end, online only, lower tier lender, but they're out there if you're really struggling with repayments, or you just want somewhere to hold your home loan that you make repayments to and leave it at that. The 3 points I've got at the bottom here, and I'm talking quite fast because I'm conscious of the time. I think we're up to about 8 minutes already. Interest-only options for home loans are still possible. They're not always recommended because obviously they increase the amount of interest you pay over the life of the loan. But for instance, if you're sending your kid to their last year of private school's expensive, and once that's gone, you'll end up with an extra $15,000 to $30,000 in your pocket every year. If you're coming off of a fixed rate and you've got $30,000 worth of expenses to pay this year but not next year, you just need a bit of extra time, and you know that money is coming back into your pocket as cash flow. So maybe interest only is an option to get you through that fixed rate expiry, last year of school, and into regular mortgage life and after school life, just as an example. Centrelink income. Lenders will typically accept family tax benefits A and B, but we're seeing some policy changes where they'll also accept irregular payments or uncommon payments, such as single parent payments, a lot more of the carer payment, and also the age restrictions for lending with family tax A and B are being loosened a little bit. So generally lenders will not accept that income if your child is over the age of 11 to 13. Some lenders will take it even if they're 17. You're only going to have it for 12 months, but they'll still accept it on the assessment of a 30-year loan term. So that helps you borrow a bit more money if you really need it. So policy changes like that are really helping people just get by and get the money that they need. Cash rebates, this is in relation to refinancing. They're pretty much all gone. There are still a few lenders offering them, but it means that when you're moving lenders, it really becomes about the interest savings between current home loan and new home loan, so the rate, or cash flow. If you're refinancing not just for for interest rate, but for cash flow by extending your loan term or consolidating debts, that's where the benefit of refinancing still comes into play. Less and less so by the interest rate because of the fees. There's about $800 worth of fees when you move lenders, and if there's no rebate to cover those costs, it detracts from the benefit of moving. So you really want more than just interest savings as a reason to move lenders these days, because it can take a year, sometimes a little bit more, to recoup those costs. That's about everything from me. We're not going to have another update until February when the next announcement comes through. So have a Merry Christmas, enjoy the holidays, and stay safe.